This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 1210 of Horse Tip Daily, your almost everyday morsel of helpful hints, useful facts, and practical techniques for horse folks. Brought to you today by Kentucky Performance Products. Greetings, horse people. Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip features driving radio show co-hosts Glenn the Geek and Dr. Wendy Ying chatting about the importance of straightness for horse and human and how it has a profound effect on the entire body. And we'll get right to today's tip after this from Kentucky Performance Products.
The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Feeding your horse starch-laden grains can lead to colic, laminitis, and metabolic disease. Today, nutritionists are recommending the use of high-quality fat to provide healthy calories. Fat is an extraordinary energy source. It's readily utilized by the horse and contains more than 2 times the calories of starchy grains. Replacing grain with a high-quality fat supplement reduces a horse's risk of developing health problems. Equijewel Stabilized Rice Bran is an excellent fat supplement. It contains a balanced calcium to phosphorus ratio and won't cause mineral imbalances when added to the diet. Its all-natural ingredients are high in healthy fat and fiber. And best of all, horses fueled by Equijewel stay calmer and more focused on the job at hand. When you need to add healthy calories to your horse's diet, choose Equijewel. To learn more, visit Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Well, today I'm talking about straightness. And this is going to be kind of a stretch, but I can say this is Chinese because, in Chinese medicine, Qigong, which is it's a form of martial arts. It's kind of like Tai Chi. So that's like working on having a symmetrical body. You want to be balanced. So today we're talking about straightness in the body of horses to have them have a better performance and have their bodies last longer. If many of our listeners also read the CDL, which is the carriage driving list, and there's a whole bunch of talk right now about the way you turn your corner, you use inside hand or outside hand, and blah, 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 how deep you drive in the corners for your dressage test, blah, blah, blah. But basically, these questions can all be answered by one simple thing. Is your horse straight? And when we say straight, they can be straight on a turn because straightness in horse gaits is the front or the back feet in the same track as the front feet, right? So you have to think your shoulders and your hips, are those straight?
Yeah, we used to call that tracking up. Are they tracking up properly?
Right. So are they holding their hips off one way, or are they like when you have heaviness in one rein, or when you go around the corner, like if every time you go to the corner to the left, your shoulder is falling into the left, but you can turn right. Why is that? Right? So the basis of that, the answer to that question is because your horse is not straight. In riding, many times the rider is not straight. Like we're all one-sided. I know that I have an alien left hand. I can't help it. I don't know what it's doing over there.
Is it from Mars or Venus or?
I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what goes on over there. I don't have any communication with my left hand. So I have to be really aware of that. And I try to do things to make myself symmetrical. In driving, you may think, oh, well, I'm not sitting on the horse. How does my unevenness affect the driving? Well, that affects your driving a lot because if you're not straight in the carriage, maybe one shoulder's back or one shoulder's forward, but that's going to affect, like all you have with the horse is the bit to communicate. So a little bit of unevenness in your shoulders or your hands is going to communicate a lot through the reins to the horse. So the first thing is like, are you straight? And then the second thing is, okay, is my horse straight? For me, I'll tell you that I have this alien left hand. It's a thing called muscle memory, right? So you do the same thing over and over again, and then your muscles do that independent of your brain. So sometimes with chiropractic, they'll have you close your eyes, and then they say stand up straight and they look at you, because you might not even know that your shoulders are not straight or your back is not straight, like you collapse on one side or the other. So the same thing can happen in horses, that they start to get muscle memory, like maybe they're a little bit bent to the right all the time, like through their ribs, but they don't feel like they're bent to the right all the time, or it feels more comfortable to be like that. So you're going to have to change that in them. And to change that muscle memory, you just have to ask, you just have to, first of all, step one is realizing you have a problem, right?
Right.
And then you need to have a plan to figure out what the problem is. So you want to rule out any kind of pain issue. So, of course, the very first thing is your horse lame. So it would be a good idea to get your veterinarian to come out and do a thorough, check and see, give a little lameness exam and see if there's any place, are they short striding with one foot or the other? If they're not tracking up with one hind foot as much as the other, then you're not going to be straight, because they're pushing more with one hind than the other, which then affects the back, really affects the pelvis. And then when their pelvis gets out of whack, then their shoulders start to get out of whack. So you want to try to find the root of the problem. And that may be as simple as, my horse is old and he has, sore joints, and I need to address that issue in some way.
Now,
so
how do you fix it, though?
Well, there's many ways to fix it. You could do maybe steroid injections would be the most conventional thing. If you have arthritis in the hocks, and you can give them some injections in the hocks. That's the most common thing we do in horse, traditional horse medicine. And then you can support that with either oral glucosamine or injectable like Adequan and Legend, or you could use, herbal therapies. You can do chiropractic. You can do acupuncture. So there are a lot of different ways to go about maintaining a healthy horse. But you need to find out what the problem is. And the straightness issue can sometimes be your first clue before they're head bobbing lame that you're starting to fall apart somewhere in the body.
And now,
do you know what I'm saying?
Yep, do you know exactly what you're saying. Is this better to have a traditional vet or to have a chiropractor, or who out?
Well, I think it's very good to have a whole team of people. Like, say I go out and somebody says, I want a whole sport horse exam. So I'll go out and look, and if I see something that, I think, oh my God, I think that thing has, arthritis in his hocks, I'll ask the history. Have you ever, had x-rays on these hocks? Does this horse have a history of this? Then I may do a flexion exam, and if that's positive, then I may say, look, I think that we need to get your general medicine vet in here, do x-rays, and then talk about a plan to go about, depending on what the x-rays say and how severe the problem is, like how we're going to attack this. If it's just minor and it's like maybe their pelvis is out, but their joints all look good, then that might just be a series of a couple chiropractic adjustments and some anti-inflammatories, whether that be drugs or herbs, or acupuncture.
And is this something that's important for casual drivers? And we understand why it's important for competitive drivers, because in dressage, that it makes a huge difference in dressage, especially.
Oh yeah.
But is it also important for casual drivers?
It's really important for casual drivers because straightness is important to preserve your horse's body so that it can have a long, not competitive, but a long functional life. So, horses are expensive animals, and you can't always afford to retire them, So the longer your horse can do his job, the more happy and the longer he can go on with his life, and the more you can enjoy your horse. So if you can keep him straight, that's less wear and tear on the joints and on the body, and he'll have a much longer functional lifespan.
No, that
so
makes
even
sense.
if you're just going down the road, if you are, say, for example, the ADS just featured all those people that drive so many hours. So just like if you're going to be a marathon jogger, think of all the miles you put on. So like how many steps has that horse taken in his lifetime? But you want every step to be as pleasant as possible. If every step he's a little off balance, then, that could show up as like navicular disease or some kind of joint disease earlier in his lifetime than if he wasn't off balance. So that's how it goes back to the Chinese medicine. Like, that's all about balance, the yin and the yang, the left and the right side. So you want everything to be balanced, because when you have this balance, you have harmony, and you can live a healthier life, and you can have better performance and an easier way of going. And then also, one of the main things is not just the feet, but, of course, with horses, no foot, no horse. But that all translates up the body, no matter what the issue is. It all translates up the body to the spine. And everybody has had a bad back at one point in time. And when you hurt your back, it hurts a long time. That's a chronic injury that then throws a lot of things out of whack. It can give you headaches. It can give you backaches. It can give you poor performance. It can make you in a really bad mood. You can be depressed. So to keep a healthy spine, you have to have balance on both sides of the body, and you have to make sure you can bend on both sides of the body. You don't want to be stuck on one side or the other.
Well, and it's so interesting when you're a rider and see a picture of you riding your horse directly from the front or behind. That is when it becomes telltale of which side is your heavy side and your weak side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's and I think sometimes when you ride, you can feel that you're not straight more than when you're driving, because you're not on them.
Right.
But it will show up when you say to yourself, yeah, when I turn left, my horse is counterbent and falls in. And then maybe you overturn right. Well, and that's drivers deal with that issue all the time. And you want to, a lot of times you think, oh, well, is it my driving? And yes, I'm not saying it couldn't be your driving, but whatever the reason is, whether it's your driving or your horse is sore or you're crooked, you need to figure out what it is, because you need to fix that.
Well, there you go. You can read Wendy's excellent blog posts and learn more on a variety of health topics at drwendyying.com. That's drwendyying.com. And you can also listen to her every week on the Driving Radio Show at drivingradioshow.com. Find links to today's guests as well as lots more tips at horsetipdaily.com. This podcast was made possible through the generous support of Kentucky Performance Products and listeners like you. Learn how you can help support Horse Radio Network programming and qualify for auditors-only perks by going to horsetipdaily.com and clicking on the Become an Auditor banner in the center of the page. This is Coach Jen, and I'll be back again soon with another tip. So until then, go ride your horse. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.